Hi, and thanks for joining me. My name is Jeff Nepper, and I'm excited to take you through part of Project Bootcamp. On the Help Center, if you'll open up Learning on Demand Project Bootcamp, we're going to work through the module on data logging today. Now, first and foremost, I want you to know that we've got some files that you can download that are going to greatly help you through this process. In fact, you're going to need most of these files in order to follow along with me. So this would be a fine time to go ahead and pause, download, extract the appropriate files, and have them waiting and ready for you. Now, everything that I'm going to be instructing you to do is going to have you essentially connecting to data sources on one of our AWS machines called DataGen. The goal of that is that everyone following along will have the exact same data that they are collecting. That way we have a nice uniform lab. But for some reason, if you would prefer to try to replicate this environment local on your machine instead of reaching up and out to our server, you can do that. Or if you'd like to duplicate this environment, maybe in your own, if you're a Canary partner and you want to create a Canary environment with localized data, we've given you instructions here on how to install both the Mqtt broker as well as set up the KEP server environment that we're going to be using in this video. So I'm not going to go through this step by step. But I am going to leave you to do this on your own if you want to use a localized data generation service. It is causing more work for you. I would encourage you at the minimum to at least connect to our AWS server first, and then coming back on your own if you want to try to build your own environment. All right, so let's start out with logging data via Opc Ua. Our goal is to create 2 different logging sessions, each targeting its own unique data set. Maybe I should explain before we go down too deep into this. Our end result is going to be collecting data from 4 different sites, if you will. And each site is going to be targeting its own unique data set. So in this case, we're going to have 2 sites where we're collecting data via Opc Ua and 2 sites where we're collecting data via Mqtt. So the first site is called Travis. And for Travis, we're going to establish an Opc Ua collector session. Now, I'm giving you step-by-step instructions inside of this module on how to do it. But I'm going to demonstrate it now in real time for you so that you have the ability to follow along and pause as need be. All right, so the first thing I'd like you to do is open up your Canary admin, and we're going to open the Opc Collector tile. If you're like me and you have a brand new install, you're not going to have any current sessions. So total sessions are at 0. And we'll need to create our first session by coming to configuration. Before we do this, there are just a few assumes that I have. My assumption is that you've already obviously installed everything, that you've already licensed everything. If you haven't hit these steps yet, you're going to want to look at the other modules that walk you through how to license, how to install, and so on. All right, so typical navigation inside of the admin is once we come into a tile, if there's subcategories, they're here across the bottom. So we'll go to configuration, and then we have our configuration screen, and across the left are a second set of submenus then. But for our first session, it'll be pretty straightforward. We're going to click New Session. Let's give it a name. Set name to Travis, step number 4. Historian stays localhost. And if you have data sets to pick from, you could use the dropdown, but we can also auto-create a data set by entering its name into data set. Now, data sets are cap specific. Please follow along with my capitalization. So capital T for Travis. The next step is to target our host location for our KEP server. In this case, OPC TCP ://datagen dot canary labs dot online, then colon and the port number, which is 49320. You'll notice that there is a host port field here and it's grayed out. Anytime that we start with an address, that automatically grays it out. If I had my KEP server local, which, as we've talked about before, is best practice. Typically, I would be installing my OPC collector local to the OPC server. If that was the case, I would type localhost, and then here, I would put in my port. But we know that if we are addressing a remote server, the port needs to be in line, therefore the port is grayed out here. All right, now for my instance, I'm not using security. The reason we're not using security is that following our best practices, you're going to be local to your source in an actual production environment. Therefore, security is not imperative because you are on the same machine inside of the same environment. I'll hit apply. It warns me that I don't have a data set named Travis, asking me, do I want to create it automatically? Great time to double check your caps, and I'll hit yes. All right, at that point, I've made my connection. Now I can browse. And I have a dialog. I have a box that gives me the ability to browse that OPC server. I'll come down to simulation examples and then functions. And within functions, I will find Travis. I click on Travis to see the list of tags within it. All right. Now I want to filter here and only grab certain tags. We're creating a logging session, but each logging session can have multiple groups. And I'll walk through the benefits of this after we've added these tags. So let's filter and take only the pump tags. So my filter is pump. So if the word pump is not present in the tag name, then I will not see it, and we'll hit OK. All right, so in my group 1, I now have a list of tags, the mapping to the OPC node, as well as a few properties. Now I can create more tag properties here, and we'll do that in a second. But first, I guess we should get back to our group here. So let's go through our instructions because I jumped ahead just a little bit. So the first thing that we want to do is rename this group. And we're going to call this group pumps. All right. And then I've already browsed the OPC server. Simulation examples, functions, Travis. I've already filtered pumps and I've added them to the list. So I'll hit apply. All right, now let's create a new group. In this one, we're going to name towers. And notice that within a group, I have the ability to change sampling intervals, normalize timestamps within that group, and essentially place a deadband if I'd like. So I want to switch this because I have slow data changes in my towers to a 30-second sample interval. If I wanted to put in a deadband, I can choose whether it's absolute or percent. Now the deadbanding happens to the tag. Nice time also just under Travis to show, let me get rid of this guy real quick. Put that 0 back in there. That was in there. That way that alert goes away. All right, so within my towers, let's add those tags again. And we'll browse again. And this time I just want the towers. All right, and we'll apply. Applying essentially takes the changes that I've made and writes them to the file. Every time we create a logging session, Canary creates an OCF file. That OCF file gets saved under the data, the program data directory inside of Canary, so that I have the ability to, if I wanted to, I can offload and back up my logging sessions that way. All right, so let's apply all the changes. We'll come down to the status tab and we are going to start logging and hit the play button. Blue means that it's logging. Let's look at our sender service and double check and make sure that our sender, which is where the logging session comes through, it's active, it sees it, it's connected to 51 tags. We're actively storing and sending. And my buffer, which is the TVQ window, is not building. You'll see buffer every once in a while hop in. That could just result in a network instability. It could be that the computer's being overworked. But if that's normally 0, I don't worry if I see some data come into it for a second or two, as long as it clears out. So as I come over to the receiver, there's the 51 tags coming through the receiver from the sender and now coming into the historian. My historian has previously been used on this machine. That's why you see a high tag count of things I've licensed. I cleared all of my data out for this video. So here in Travis, I'm currently writing 51 tags. These are my updates per second. And here's my HDB file for today. And here's the tags as they're being logged. All right, how'd you do? Are you at the same spot that I'm at? If you're not, go ahead and pause the video, go back and give it another try or another listen. If you have some questions and need some help, the Help Center is a great way to go. We monitor it constantly, so you can always go into the forum and just throw out a Bootcamp question, and we can help you with it. All right, I'm going to come back over to Opc Collector, and let's do our second logging session, this time for the Hayes Water District. So we'll need to create a new session. Let's name it. Capital HAYS. Same thing for the data set. This time I'm going to just copy. Let's do pumps first. There we go. And before we bring in the tags, I'm going to add some tag properties. Now, when I add tag properties, I basically create my own list. Now, mine has hung on from before, so I'm going to remove these. I don't want you to not be able to see how I did it. But I want my tag properties list to be descriptions, engineering units, model, horsepower, and tank height. And some of those are already here for me. So I'm going to put them in the exact same order. Order is going to matter. You'll see why later. If they're not in there, I just type them in and hit add. And we're going to get tank height. This is really important that we keep all of these properly case sensitive and spelled right. Later on in other modules, we're going to be linking to these metadata properties. And so if you're following along or copying and pasting, if you haven't followed the same spelling or case sensitivity, it's not going to work as easily for you. Let's go ahead now, and you'll see that those are now over as columns. Now if we browse for tags, I only want the pumps. So we're going to say -P. So I don't have any towers here. All I have are pumps. And we'll hit OK. So looking at the list, no towers, just pumps. And then if I look to my Excel file, which needs modified. So the Excel file that you're going to have here at the very top, Haze logging configuration, will look like this. It'll have Haze towers and Haze pumps sheets. You want to select not the header row, but just the data portion. Notice there's nothing in tank height, but because there's a column for it, I'm still selecting it. So I do not select the header row. I do not select the entire row. I select the group of data. And I hit copy. Again, tank height's empty, but I still select it. Come back over and then highlight all of my rows. And I do that using that empty cell at the left. And then paste. So I've got descriptions for almost all of my data there, not for all of it. So we'll go ahead and let's add in the rest. I'll update that so that when you're running this, you won't have that same thing happen that I just had happen. In fact, I'm going to do that here on the fly just so you could see the process. So let's say that maybe you wanted to take this list to Excel to do the edits in Excel instead of doing it here. Let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to copy the list out of here. And let's delete all of that. And then we'll paste in. Not too bad, right? Notice that my column headers came in twice, so easy fix. Just get rid of that. All right, so my state is basically where I start here. So I see that the ST tag is where I'm missing those descriptors. So I'm just going to paste them right in and get rid of those. Perfect. I might leave this just the way it is, or maybe I have some different models that I'd want to change or some metadata I'd want to change. But either way, that gets me what I need, and I'm happy with it. So now I'm going to select only the data. Come back and hit copy again. Go ahead and save this so I can upload the proper file for you to be using from the beginning. And then I'm going to paste right over top. Make sure I got my copyright. I don't know that I did. Now it seems right. There it went. I hadn't actually copied it the first time. All right, so apply that change. Always backing up my work as I'm going. New group. This one's going to be towers. Now this time, I'm not even going to browse for tags. I don't know, did I say, is this how we set this module up? Probably not. Oh, good, it is. So follow along. This time I'm not even going to browse for tags. This time I'm just going to copy the Excel spreadsheet directly in. So come to Haze Towers. set up what I want for my data, bypassing the header row, copy. Instead of using the paste feature, now I paste new. And just like that, I've got my tag sessions. We'll hit apply, and let's play it. If I come back down to status, no errors. If there was errors, it would be in red. Just like that, on perfect timing. I don't know if we could have ever had that happen quite so seamlessly. A lot of times that error might have been a communication error up to the AWS server. You can see it's already gone away. So my guess is that we had some type of a COM error. But that is quite funny. That's not typical that you would see an error, and for it to happen right as I said it, oh, that's great. I'm glad I'm recording. All right, so there's my sender. And again, we are moving data, no problem on 30 tags. All right. Historian, Hayes is, we're logging data to Hayes. We're logging data to Travis. I've got half my work done. Now, let's do the MQTT portion. On the MQTT portion, we have a Mosquito broker sitting on the same server in AWS, DataGen. And so we're going to target two new data sets, Comal Water District and Guadalupe Water District. And we're essentially going to subscribe as a subscribing client to the broker. We're going to wildcard and subscribe to all tags, but we're going to filter and only ask for the appropriate tags for the data set we want to log to. This will go pretty quick. So we'll start by opening the Mqtt Collector. Let me bring the sizing down a little bit more here. No, nothing is currently running, or I'd see them listed here. So we'll come to configuration, and I have nothing configured. The plus sign creates a new connection group, and when it creates a new group, it gives me all of the different configurables here in a tree form. So the first thing I want to do is bring in a label. This just helps me keep track of what it is that I'm working on. Notice that a randomized MQTT client has been created for me. A MQTT broker will only allow a single client with the same name. So I'd have to create a new random client ID every time I create a new connection group. So we do that for you, but if for some reason you want to bring that random ID back, there's the generation button. I'll leave primary application checked. I'll leave the request device birth checked. If it's already created a server instance for me, I don't need to create another server instance. I'm going to edit this one. So basically, I'm going to target TCP instead of localhost datagen.canarylabs.online, and we're going to do this secure, so it's 8883. Username is Bootcamp with a capital B, and password is Sir, yes sir, capital S, capital Y, capital S, exclamation mark. We'll leave the reconnect interval and the keep alive the same, but we are using security, so let's enable SSL and hit apply. So now the server has been configured. Next step, let's configure what we've subscribed to. So we are subscribing using the wildcard SBBV 1.0/hash means every tag on the server, which is fine. But I do want to change the data set that we're logging to. So we're going to log to a data set called Comal. If there were more than 25,000 tags, which there's not, we would automatically roll over that data set and create a new instance of Comal. It would be Comal_1 and then Comal_2. We'll leave that alone. Now, I do want to trim some of the prepended path off the tag name. I want to trim the first 3 sections off. So that's going to trim off the device, the group, and the edge node IDs. And I do want to start tag logging automatically. We'll apply. Where are we sending the data to? This is telling the sender where the historian is. Easy enough. We'll leave it as such. And now we want to create a filter. And for the filter, we only want, even though we're subscribing to all tags, I only want to log the tags that start with Kamal on the tag name. So this is a little bit of regular expressions. Caret for meaning beginning of tag path. And it's beginning of the tag path because I've trimmed the first 3 sections off. I'm not excluding these. These are the ones that I actually want. So we're going to hit apply. With that, that configuration is finished. If I come back to status and I enable, I'm going to see that I'm connected. That means that I connected to the broker without any problem. Takes a couple seconds, but I found on the broker 254 tags, and I filtered because of the Kamal filter and started logging 44 of them, and they're updating. Told you it was easy. Let's do the exact same thing now for Guadalupe. So configuration. We're going to come back in and we are going to do the exact same thing we have just done. We're going to come in and do it step by step. That was datagen.canarylabs.online. Change the port. Bootcamp. Sir. Yes, sir. Capital S, capital Y, capital S. Automatically enable SSL. Our subscription. This time, we want to go to the dataset Guadalupe. Check your spelling. It's a weird one. Trim the front 3 and log all tags. Localhost stays the same. Create a filter. As you guessed, we only want the tags that start with Guadalupe. Let's enable. Connected, true. Found 254 tags, logging 210 of them. You probably know this, but the beauty of MQTT compared to the OPC session is, let's pretend that Kamal Water District picks up some new equipment. Maybe a whole new station, new pumps, new towers. The second they start publishing that to the broker, I don't have anything to do on my side as Canary. Those new tags are going to show up, publish a birth certificate. I'm going to see them, subscribe to them, filter them, and start logging them. And as an administrator to my Canary system, I never have to go add a tag. So the tags get added essentially from the edge side, show up at the broker, and I just pick them up. Let's double check our work. In the sender, notice I now have all 4 sessions active. All 4 sessions are showing me their activity, and I'm not really buffering anything. So I know my data is moving through without a problem. In the historian, Guadalupe, Hayes, Kamal, and Travis. All the data's there. I've completed the first, and really, I would have to say, folks, most complicated of the modules here, just because if it's your first time doing MQTT, there was some subtleties there that you probably hadn't experienced before. If it was your first time using Opc Ua, there might have been some things that you saw or struggled with. If you have any questions, if you're not, if you feel like you're just not getting it, well, we don't want you to struggle. We want this to be fun and we want this to be easy. So please, will you reach out? Will you send us a chat on the Help Center? Will you email me? That's My email is jnepper. Here, let me pull it up. I was just doing a coaching session earlier. So there I am. And right there's the email, jnepper@canarylabs.com. Shoot me an email if you need some help. I'd love to take you through it and get you connected with some other users of the Canary system that you can collaborate with. Thanks so much for completing this data logging module as part of the Project Bootcamp. I appreciate your just really desire to learn more about Canary, and so glad to have you as part of the Canary family.